Hello everybody, it's Dr. Stuart Allen Swerdlow.
And Janet Diane Moria Swerdlow.
And this is the Expansions News Podcast for the very last few days of August and the first few days of September 2020. And so the summer is coming to an end, but of course the storms are not coming to an end.
All kinds of storms.
Yes, and as you must know by now, before I get into the other things, there was Hurricane Laura, which killed at least 6 people, and there's probably more, but right now they're only reporting 6 as of this filming, that were killed during the hurricane in Louisiana. And the damage may not be known for quite a number of days because many of these areas are inaccessible and they have to wait until the Gulf water recedes before they can assess the damage and find out what actually happened to the people. And there are some reports that say that they cannot tell where the Gulf ends and the land begins because it is so flooded. In Arkansas, trees were knocked onto houses, buildings were damaged. Also in Texas, there are over 700,000 homes and businesses without power, but I'm sure that number is even bigger. The Hurricane Laura came on land as a Category 4 hurricane, and it was downgraded to a tropical storm by the time it got into Arkansas and the lower Ohio Valley. And of course, summer of 2020 has seen many strong storms. Interestingly, though, despite what has happened, there have been very few hurricanes or tornadoes actually, but there have been other storms that have become severe, thunderstorms, etc. And Hurricane Laura seemed to me to be artificially enhanced. It just exploded unnaturally as it approached the land. My opinion is, and I've been asking people about this, I want to know what is in the Lake Charles, Louisiana area that had to be targeted by whomever did this.
Was that close to the Hurricane Katrina site?
No, well,
different?
It's still Louisiana. This is the western part of Louisiana, and Katrina was in the eastern part of Louisiana. Anyway, also this, almost a week ago now, President Trump announced an emergency authorization to treat the COVID-19 patients with convalescent plasma, a move that he called a breakthrough, and his top health officials called promising, but other health experts said it needed more study, of course, and I'm going to tell you about that in a moment. But the White House officials said that there were politically motivated delays by the Food and Drug Administration, the FDA, in approving a vaccine and therapeutics for the disease. Blood plasma taken from patients who have recovered from coronavirus are rich in antibodies and may provide benefits to those who are battling the disease. However, the FDA scientist Denise Hinton said that COVID-19 convalescent plasma should not be considered a new standard for care of treatment. But Trump has made it clear that he's eager to have new battles against the virus, and the timing allowed him to do this before the Republican National Convention. And so basically the WHO, the FDA, the CDC, the Gates Foundation all want a poisonous vaccine in order to end the scamdemic. And so they will deny any other treatments and say that they're not worthy or trustworthy. For example, like the hydroxychloroquine, which is an absolutely perfect help to end the virus, and it's been around for 65 years, so it's been absolutely proven to be safe and effective. And in 2014, none other than Fauci said publicly that hydroxychloroquine is a wonderful cure for all coronaviruses.
No, I haven't seen any of him on the news.
Yeah, because he's probably under house arrest.
And Dr. Birx, I haven't seen her either.
Yeah, she's probably also crying in her room because she can't come out anymore. And so here's some information that I found out just today. I can't verify it, but it's something that I have found out. Why are they not allowing hydroxychloroquine to be allowed as a treatment, other than the fact that they want a vaccine, poisonous vaccine from the Gates Foundation. One possible reason is that I heard that people who are taking adrenochrome, who do contact the virus and take hydroxychloroquine, can actually have a fatal reaction to the HCQ. So if you're on adrenochrome and you catch this parasite, it's not a virus, it's a parasite, which comes from the 5G and the AI, and we know this already, then you can die if you have the treatment.
Well, then they would know not to take
No.
that.
So I think that they should all take it, actually. I insist that all of them take it.
They could be the guinea pigs.
And speaking of false information, 3,700 people in Sweden were told in error that they had the coronavirus due to a fault in a testing kit from, guess where? Oh, China. Who would ever suspect that they'd have fake tests from there?
It's a shock to me.
Yeah, the kit comes from BGI Genomics, and the test could not distinguish between very low levels of the virus and a negative result, so it just said yes. The test kits have been widely exported to other countries, and they're called PCR kits, which test for an ongoing COVID-19 infection, made in China by BGI Genomics and distributed around the world. And the kits were used in Sweden by people conducting at-home tests between March and August of this year.
You know what PCR kit stands for?
What?
Pretty crappy results.
Oh, you're so brilliant. Back to me. Speaking of brilliant. And it said that people who had mild symptoms or no symptoms had a false positive result. Now, here's something that I found actually quite humorous. In the last few days on Yahoo News and on CNN, of course, Communist Network, they're saying that so many people have symptoms but are testing negative and they don't understand this. Oh, you know why? Because now there's a false negative test. So if your test is negative, it means you have it. Brilliant. Honestly, they'll stop at nothing. Morons. And guess what? The Department of Justice requested data from 4 Democrat governors on their orders to send sick COVID-19 patients to nursing homes. And I will quote here from the Department of Justice: protecting the rights of some of society's most vulnerable members, including elderly nursing home residents, is one of our country's most important obligations, according to Assistant Attorney General for Civil Rights Division Eric Drybend, who said in his statement, "We must ensure that they are adequately cared for with dignity and respect and not unnecessarily put at risk." So the Department of Justice has requested data from Governors Andrew Cuomo, Democrat of New York, Phil Murphy, Democrat of New Jersey, Tom Wolf, Democrat of Pennsylvania, and Richard Nitwitmer, the Democrat of Michigan.
No.
The Wicked Witch of the Midwest.
Wow.
Yes. Notice, all Democrats. And New York, which has more deaths from the virus than any other state, and became the coronavirus hotspot at the start of the pandemic, issued its order on March 25th to put sick people in nursing homes and kill everybody.
Even though they had field hospitals that were empty,
They
Trump
were
sent,
empty.
Trump sent the boat.
And the hospitals are still freaking empty,
Yeah, and
okay?
Trump sent that huge boat, and they didn't use that, but they put them in with the old
Okay.
people.
These governors, I will mention them again: Andrew Cuomo, Phil Murphy, Tom Wolf, and I'll have to say her name, Gretchen Whitmer. I have to wash my mouth with alcohol. Ooh, I know which one to use. Anyway, all of these governors are guilty of serial killing and should be prosecuted for murder and executed. For treason, actually. That's my... Speaking of treason, guess who I'm going to speak about now?
It's hard to say.
Try
there's
to
so
guess. Try to guess.
many. Pelosi.
Yep.
Am I right?
You're psychic. Because Pelosi declared the Republicans to be enemies of the
I saw that,
state
yes.
and launched a plan to seize the White House by force which is, of course, treason. The Speaker of the House, Nancy Pants Pelosi, they list her as instead of a Democrat, demon of California.
That's what they said. Oh my.
Demon of California on the news, has just declared the Republicans to be enemies of the state and domestic enemies, further admitting her plan to seize the White House by force, followed by mass arrests of all GOP members and Trump supporters.
That's everybody that's not a Democrat.
Right, there'll be
That's like
probably
half the
nobody left in
population.
the United States.
That's why they're emptying the prisons so they can put everybody in.
She claimed the domestic enemies to our voting system and honoring our Constitution are right at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, which is the address of the White House, and their allies in the Congress of the United States. She then went on to call them enemies of the state. This follows her treasonous comments on July 21st, when she claimed she was second in line to the presidency and that Trump would be removed from the White House whether he knows it yet or not. And then explained that the White House would be fumigated after Trump was forcibly removed. Actually, she said, it will be fumigated, right? This is
How
her,
is she
her
second
hand demon.
in line? She would be third.
Because she's the House Speaker, that's why.
Oh, she was third.
And so, coming from the Speaker of the House, these are words of treason against the United States of America. It shows that Nancy Pelosi's plan is to seize the White House by force, declare all Republicans to be criminals of the state, and have them all arrested and imprisoned and maybe executed, which is what she should have. It shows that even when Trump secures an election victory November 3rd, the constitutional republic is not safe from the insurrectionist schemes of lawless Democrats who plan to carry out a military coup against America and forcibly remove a duly elected president while claiming power for themselves. And remember, people, what I told you last week about the missile that was found at a Florida airport. I'm telling you, they're putting these all around the country as an insurrection that they plan to do on November 4th. The Democrats' new logo for 2020 reads Death to America. Here you go. Can you see that? Death to America. And look at the Baphomet satanic symbol when you turn it this way. They're not even hiding it anymore. And in a recent interview that Scamala Harris had with the other idiot from late night television, I forgot which one he is. Anyway, she said that these demonstrators and these protesters and rioters are doing the right thing, and it will continue till the election. And she said even after the election it will continue. Well, Scamala, if you win, why would it continue after? You know why? Because she knows they're not going to win, and no matter who, even if Trump gets 99.9% of the vote, they'll say that it was false. Mm-hmm. I guess maybe it's like a coronavirus test. It's a false negative positive.
Well, they're setting everybody up for that now.
So these Democrats, these are lunatics who are waging a violent civil war in the streets of America, burning down America's cities, assaulting law enforcement, destroying local businesses, and threatening innocent bystanders. Democrats hate the United States, but they claim they want to rule over it, actually make it a province of China. They obviously want to burn it down and destroy it, and that's their goal. Ultimately, the Democrats are pushing a chaos agenda for the 2020 election, hoping to unleash so much violence and chaos that Trump's victory will be rendered uncertain for as long as possible. What Democrats are really hoping to do is sow confusion and chaos, claiming Trump didn't win all the way through January 20th, which is the inauguration. After which they'll claim Nancy Pelosi is the legitimate president since the outcome of the election can't be determined. And that can only happen if there's no decision or outcome by January 20, 2021.
2021, yes.
Yes. God forbid that happens, because I will tell you, I know for a fact, the military has stated that if she even tries to get into that White House, they will come after her. They will not allow her in. So, the Democrats will, of course, have a complicit, treasonous media backing them all the way. And we've already seen the collusion, but the irrational hysteria about the U.S. Postal Service creating a blame narrative in advance to explain how they claim the election will be stolen. So they know that even with their mail-in votes, they can't win. They even know that. So now they're already saying that, even they're saying that it will be a stolen election.
They have all those dead people voting.
You know,
and
the dead
pets.
people, pets, probably coronavirus,
Maybe maybe dead pets too.
if you have the coronavirus, you probably get a ballot for your little coronavirus is in you.
Yeah, so
It's clear already that the Democrats realize they cannot win the election if it's fair and free. So they're resorting to setting up blame narratives and conspiracy theories so they can attempt to remove President Trump by force. Defending Trump in America against treasonous anti-American leftists is going to require hundreds of thousands of armed patriotic Americans converging on Washington, D.C. to stop any attempted military coup and left-wing attempts to overrun the White House and Capitol building. And a combat veteran recently said that there will be blood in the streets of America immediately following the election, and that's because the Democrats are going to attempt to stage an all-out civil war against patriots. And they've already begun that, actually. So Biden is literally brain dead. I mean, that's why you will not see him in public saying more than one word at a time, and even that is dangerous for him.
right.
Kamala Harris is a CCP or Communist Chinese Party whore. Yes, I will say that. And did you see on the videos that I've posted those paid hoodlums that were harassing people that were leaving the Republican National Convention? Did you see that? They are paid anarchists. Harris supports them. What will happen on November 4th, the day after the election? And what can be done to stop this? I know that there has to be a plan. President Trump is not going to allow this to happen, especially the day after the election. He is not going to have months and years of civil war. It's not going to be like this. I assure you it will not be.
But they're trying to plant the seeds. And did you see that picture that they was circulating for a while? It was up and down really fast of Kamala
Scamala.
as a man.
Yes, I've seen, and
Someone
it's
knows.
interesting that these women are actually men, and that's why they don't have their own children, because they can't. And again, I saw a horrible video, which I posted on my blog, and I hope that you will watch it, about how Gates and party planned this whole thing since minimum 2015, and even stated it.
Sure, before.
Even you said the word coronavirus 5 years ago. And I looked at the image of him close up.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a man. It's absolute. It looks like an elderly woman dressed like a man. It even sounds like a woman. And Linda, come on, that's not a woman. That is Kevin Kline with a wig and fake breasts. Mine are natural. I know they look very ample, but they're natural.
Mm-hmm.
And I have no implants, seriously. No. Anyway, I know you're very jealous. Anyway, look what else has happened, because I don't want to lose my place here. Oh, actually, I have forgotten something, but I'll do that at the end. For the second time this year, the news is reporting that North Korean, they call him dictator, Kim Jong-un, he's not that, he just plays with toys and he just does what they say, that he's in another coma. That's like the second coma.
Yeah, but I think he's back out, isn't he? Or they still say he's
Well, yes, because he appeared again.
Yeah.
Because according to a former South Korean official, that Kim Jong-un was in a coma and he'd given his power to his younger sister, Kim Yo-jong. So there's Kim Yo-jong and Kim Jong-un. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
And his father was Kim Jong-il.
number 1, number 2, and number 3.
Yeah. You want number 1, I give you for free. I give you 2. I with the face. I give it the...
Yeah, with the face, because
the face.
shouldn't be doing that.
You know what?
I know you don't care.
It's even on the news. Okay,
Shouldn't do that.
So actually, this South Korean man, Chung Song-min, he was a former aide to the late South Korean president Kim Dae-jung, said,
Kim Dae-jung.
well, he did actually. He says, I assess him to be in a coma, but his life has not ended. Well, if you're in a coma, you're not ended, okay? And he said that the leader's younger sister, Kim Yo-jong, was poised to lead the country. However, Kim Yo-jong has not been seen in several months. And maybe she's dead because they kill everybody.
It's possible.
What? You took my food? You're dead. And so, just yesterday on the news, guess who was appearing at a meeting?
That's all.
John
That's what I
On.
thought he was back.
Looked pretty fine to me.
Well, it could have been an old fish.
Chubby and
Oh, yeah.
puffy, and his hair is all poofed up. I
You're
wish
just
I had hair
jealous.
like I
You're
am jealous
jealous.
of his hair. Yes, I want Kim
And
Jong
not
Un's
only that,
hair.
but like he's like almost an emperor.
I-
And you want that title.
But I am the
What
emperor.
in your head?
So anyway, this is another deep state lie, of course. But what I found very interesting is Japanese President Abe is resigning.
I saw that too.
I think he's the longest continuous is it prime minister or president of Japan. But I'll tell you what, they said he was ill from ulcerative colitis.
Really?
Yes, and that he had surgery, and that he could, but that he's 65 years old, and it's just too much for him now. But I'll tell you what, I think he is an agent for the deep state, and I think now they're getting rid of all of these leaders across the world, and apparently, and confirmed. Remember, I said for years, and when I did that documentary in Japan 6 years ago, and I said the Japanese royal family is really Korean, and Kim Jong Un is. So guess what? They said that Abe is actually descended from Koreans who come from the Chinese Li family, who are very evil, and they're getting rid of them. So I think that's very interesting. And I just had a story from Germany. I have now reporters in Germany who are at this amazing rally in Berlin. It's actually a peaceful protest. And the news is reporting, 16,000?
18,000.
18, but there's actually 5 million people. And they're from all over Europe. I saw French flags, German flags, all kinds of flags. And the people are reporting to me that they're going to stay there until
The government falls.
Merkel goes.
That's it, until the government resigns, so we'll see.
So, sehr glücklich für Deutschland und wir wünschen Ihnen viel Erfolg. And so, very glad to hear that.
Yeah. That's my German.
Yes, I
Ja.
know. Yes, I
Or
know.
is it da?
And so, before I
That's
continue,
Russian.
I have now also reporters in South Africa.
We have people all over the
I,
world.
I actually am the new CNN. I'm the actually StuNN. That's the new StuNN, and I want to replace the fake media with myself and yourself. Okay.
What part am I doing in?
Well, you
On
could
the end?
you could be the
Yeah.
the sidekick.
The sidekick.
Yeah, but
Thank
actually,
you so much.
but the irony of it is, I'm the one that gets kicked from the side.
That's
so
that,
I'm
that
really.
makes me the sidekick.
Yeah, you're the sidekicker, really. From South Africa, they have said, no, ANC is the leading political party of South Africa. And this person reports to me that the aim of the ANC has been to establish communism on a Stalinist, Maoist model. Where have we heard that before? The fake pandemic provided the perfect excuse to expose the harshest lockdown in the world on April 1st and is only slightly eased. Essentially, we are governed by a 7-member command council, or Politburo, who issue absurd rules and heavy fines for disobeying. There is no public participation, just decrees. And I guess the person in charge is Ramaphosa, and he's merely the chairman of the committee. The one who's really in charge is Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma. Now you say that 10 times fast. The statewide corruption established as a principle for Jacob Zuma has been continued under Ramaphosa, and possibly even worse. Early on in the lockdown, a $15 million aid package was announced. Good, we all said, but most of this never reached the intended beneficiaries. It was stolen by the ANC cadres responsible for the distribution, which is a very common issue in South Africa and all of Africa.
Well, even here, the distribution that they gave to the American people was stolen by the large corporations.
Now, here's about reverse discrimination. A feeding scheme was also announced but the food was only for black South Africans. All minority groups who are white, mixed race, or Indian were excluded. Aid and support to small business could only be claimed by black businesses. It's kind of reverse discrimination. He said, I should mention that we are now back on rolling blackouts because Eskom, which I guess is the monopoly providing the power, cannot do so due to aging plants poorly maintained, and once again all the money has been stolen. The government has declared that they intend to pass a law to control internet content by private individuals. Everyone has to apply for a license and pay a fee to be able to submit each post to a censorship committee. Fines for posting without this permission are severe, so they have to get permission to post, and we post and it just gets pulled away. So not much of a difference
But we're not
there.
fined when they pull ours away, though, so I guess that's the difference.
He said one courageous person named Reno De Beer took the ANC government to court last month to challenge the legality of the lockdown. He did this single-handedly and mostly at his own expense. He won the case, and the government was given 2 weeks to comply and no leave for appeal. But the government has simply ignored the ruling. What are you going to do about that? A tax revolt began 3 years ago and has gained a lot of momentum lately and has been supported by big corporate players. They have been citing a U.S. law, which I didn't know about this law, which states that if you pay tax when you know it will be stolen by a corrupt government, then you can legally withhold a tax.
Well, then would have to prove that it was withheld illegally by a corrupt government.
And so there are several movements to support independence for portions of the country. There's the Cape Party and Cape Exit Party. And a third called the Republic of Zweiland that has better chance of success, and they have 30,000 virtual citizens and have already bought land with the possibility of a port in time to come. Now, listen to this next part. This group is aimed at the safety and prosperity of minority groups, Afrikaner, what they call Eurokaner, generally English-speaking whites, and Khoisan, which are tribes indigenous to the Western Cape, plus mixed-race population. They exclude the Nguni tribes, or the blacks, who all immigrated from the north. And here's what corroborated by information in my history. He said, in fact, whites did not encounter any black tribes for more than a century after they first landed. There were no black people in South Africa.
Remember the history books, of course, there's your alien history, there's your on-world history where we talk about some of this, and of course galactic history, so you want to get our history package.
And apparently there's someone by the name of King Cornelius of the Khoisan who even went to the UN to register a new country and was successful, but we didn't hear anything about that.
We could start a new country for you.
I already did. This corroborates what I said in my work, that South Africa was empty when whites arrived from Europe. Blacks immigrated from the north a century or more later in order to work. And just like the European Jews who came to Palestine in the 1800s, it was mostly empty, malarial swamp, and actually the people who were called Palestinians were Jews. Now, before I continue on, or maybe I'll do that after, I'll just wait till my end here, because you know about the global warming stuff?
There's a lot of global warming stuff that's just
Yeah.
false.
Well, snowstorms and frost in Argentina, Patagonia, Rio Negro province could cause the death of 70% of the flocks. And they have to wait until October to get a more exact estimate, but they think about 100,000 sheep and 5,000 cattle are frozen to death.
I was going to ask what kind of flocks?
Argentina.
A sheep flock?
As we move across the ocean, Antarctic air has reached Australia's southeast and triggered snowfall even in low-lying regions across several states. And many people actually escaped their house arrest because they considered it a once-in-a-15-year event. The town of Oberon received a record-breaking 20 centimeters or 8 inches of global warming. And it's the highest 24-hour snow total ever recorded outside of an Australian alpine area. In addition, you know where our doggies come from? They come from Yakutia.
Yakuts.
Well, summer has ended in Yakutsk, the Republic of Russia, Yakutia. The village of Ayik in the Olenetsky district of Yakutia, the temperature dropped to -8 centigrade. It's the lowest temperature in Russia at the moment.
What's that Fahrenheit?
Well, that would be like 15, 14 Fahrenheit.
It would be cold this time of year.
Temperature dropped below freezing in the southern half of the republic, and the fall season in the republic arrived earlier this year. It said that during the day, the air goes up to 17 to 19, so it goes up like into the 60s, but at night it goes to 0 or below freezing. And it said summer will not return to Yakutia this year, and by the end of August, the air temperature in the republic, as well as in the Magadan region, should be below normal. And do you remember a couple of weeks ago on CNN and all the global fake news, they said Siberia was on fire and it was 100 degrees, and people, well, as you know, I have family and friends in Siberia, and so I said, oh, what's going on? They said, we don't know anything about that. It's freaking cold, and there's no fire, and it's not hot. Hello? So there are no fires or heat waves in Siberia as reported, and in fact, now we know it's -8 Celsius. So fake news, people. And I thought this was interesting from the Farmer's Almanac.
Is that the new one or the old one?
The old one is a fake thing.
Oh, it is?
Yeah, the old one is like a joke one, but the Farmer's Almanac has like over 80% accuracy rate for the last 150 years.
That's the new one?
That's the new one, yeah.
It's 150 years old.
The old one
new?
is in the 1700s. So the Farmer's Almanac bases its outlook on mathematical and astronomical formula that date back to 1818 that takes sunspot activity and other astronomical anomalies into account, and it's very reliable. And this annual periodical is predicting a grand solar minimum style winter for the United States and Canada this season, and they're calling it the winter of the Great Divide. And it's predicting a brutally cold winter for the northern, central, and eastern regions, drought in the west, and everything crazy in between. It says, if you love the cold of winter, you're going to love our forecast if you live in the northern half of the country. They are predicting a cold winter with below normal temperatures in areas from the Great Lakes and Midwest, westward through the northern and central plains and Rockies. Across the desert southwest, Arizona, Southern California, it will be generally dry and a mild winter there. But these patterns in both the US and Canada line up perfectly with the grand solar minimums of the past, which themselves follow a pattern of glacial maximums and ice ages. They said the bogus warm-mongering political agendas of the day are wrong, and that people should prepare for cold times returning and refreezing in mid-latitudes with historically low solar activity, cloud nucleating cosmic rays, and the meridional jet stream flow.
Do you know what even that means?
Of course I know what it means. I'm not telling you. Even NASA appears to agree. If you read in between the lines what they say, their forecast for the upcoming solar cycle 25, they said, is the weakest of the past 200 years, and the agency correlating previous solar shutdowns to prolonged periods of global cooling. Okay? And before I go on, I want to thank a lady named Lisa from
last initial K.
from Oregon, who sent me a very beautiful prayer card.
He likes gifts.
Yeah, there was no money in it, but
The
something
card is a gift.
something even more important. It was a prayer because she is a devotee of Saint Therese of France, who was born in 1873 and died at the age of 24. And she became a nun, and she said she wanted to devote her life to God, and that when she got to heaven, that she would bless the earth by throwing down roses. Okay, and I didn't know that this lady did this for me to put me on the prayer list for St. Therese and help me because she thinks I'm really screwed up.
But you are.
Yeah, and so unbeknownst to me that this happened, all the roses in our backyard started blooming I mean, I'm serious.
Out of season.
Yes. Like, oh, thank you, St. Therese.
And you bought some more roses.
And I got more roses. I didn't
It's a
know.
plant.
Yeah, it's a plant. But I didn't know that I was getting this from St. Therese.
So that was very lovely.
Yeah, so thank
gesture.
you. Thank you, Lisa from Oregon.
Yes. All right, and on to me. Buzzword of the day, so to speak, or buzz person, Kyle Rittenhouse. Kyle Rittenhouse is the Antioch 17-year-old charged with the shooting deaths of 2 protesters in Kenosha. And his attorneys released a statement saying the teen did nothing wrong and acted in self-defense.
He did.
Now, Rittenhouse faces 5 felony charges, including first-degree intentional homicide, first-degree reckless homicide, and a misdemeanor charge for possession of a dangerous weapon by a minor. Now, Rittenhouse walked through Kenosha streets with other armed civilians. And under Wisconsin law, anyone 17 or older is treated as an adult in the criminal justice system. So he shouldn't have had the firearm according to this. According to the law firm representing him, Pierce Brainbridge, they said that Rittenhouse and a friend received information about a call for help from a local business owner whose downtown Kenosha auto dealership was largely destroyed and he needed help protecting his business. So Kyle and his friend armed themselves with rifles, went down there, and the attorney stated the protesters threatened and taunted Rittenhouse several times as he and his friends stood guard at the business. Then apparently someone was injured during the clash with police and Rittenhouse went to help them. And then he made his way down to a second auto shop where he was confronted by protesters. He heard the sound of a gunshot behind him. He turned and there was an attacker lunging toward him and reaching for his rifle. So he reacted instantaneously and justifiably with his weapon to protect himself, firing and striking the attacker.
I think he did the right thing.
Then he stopped actually to care for the wounded person, but the mob started to grow. And he was afraid for his life, and he was concerned the crowd would either continue to shoot at him or take his weapon, which this other person had tried, and use it against him. So he had no choice but to fire into the crowd. He struck 2 attackers, including one that was armed. So the lawyers contend that the 17-year-old exercised his God-given constitutional,
That's right.
common law, and statutory law right to self-defense.
And this is what the Democrats want to remove from the public so they cannot defend themselves.
Right. The attorneys say this is the job of state and local governments. A 17-year-old child should not have to take up arms in America to protect life and property, and that's true.
Well, when you get rid of the police, what are you supposed to do?
However, those governments have failed, and law-abiding citizens have no choice but to protect their own communities.
I agree.
And didn't you tell me that you heard that he had a GoFundMe account?
Yes, he had a GoFundMe account. I think it was up to $1.8 million to
help with
his,
legal fees.
And then GoFundMe pulled it.
Yeah, but they're allowing money to go in for the black people.
Right, for the people
and
attacking
the BLM
and destroying
people.
the businesses and killing people. Their money is
Right.
allowed.
That's right. Black Lives Matter. They can have money, but not somebody like this.
Right. What
who
is wrong with that
helping
picture?
to protect
Mhm.
government.
And I'll tell you what, when I told this to a police officer from New York, I said, quite honestly, you should all be armed with machine guns. And when these people come, machine gun them down. They are not human beings. They are demons. They're worse than animals, and they're murderers. And they need to be eliminated.
In 1968, when they had the Wyatt riots, they shot the protesters, and that was the end of it. And
You
this
think-
is going on in our country for weeks and months now.
Do you think that if this happened in Moscow or in Beijing or someplace else that they would let this happen? They'd be machine gunned to death.
Yeah. Now, it's interesting to me. This was a result. I'm sure you've heard of Jacob Blake by now.
Yeah, he was a hoodlum.
He was the Kenosha Police Department gave a detailed accounting from the officer's perspective,
Mm-hmm.
and apparently, as you probably know, the police shot Jacob Blake 7 times in the back. But he had a knife. He fought with the officers. He
Yeah,
put one of
so-
them in a headlock, and he shrugged off 2 attempts to
So what
stop
should the
him.
police do? Oh, let's call a social worker in to
Right.
see if we could solve
To
this.
talk about it. So you know what? If these people are doing these things against the police,
You
it's
know
going to
what? They
happen.
deserve to. Those criminals need to be destroyed.
Now, what's interesting to me, because I'm on social media a lot and I read the news every day as you do, and we see old people, young people
Oh.
being killed and attacked.
Horrible.
But there's no marching for them,
Horrible.
only marching for these criminals.
Did you see on the Republican National Convention when it was over and the people were leaving and going back to their hotels, these hoodlums, paid hoodlums by George Soros and Scamala, They were attacking verbally this little old lady and these elderly people right in their face.
Really terrible
I mean,
things.
for goodness, what kind of, these are not human beings. They're not human beings.
So the media, for whatever reason, they're picking out one person and they're focusing you there, but there have been so many children killed of all colors, all races, all
It has
economic
nothing to do with
backgrounds.
color.
No.
It has to do with evil demons.
And this is what I don't understand. So then, this next article is talking about how the violence is hurting the communities that the protesters are supposedly wanting to protect. The violence deeply harmed the very marginalized community that activists are supposedly, that's my word, trying to protect. This year has seen steep rises in homicide numbers after 2 decades of decline in violent crime. And in Minnesota, of course, which is where everything started, local communities have been ravaged by looting, rioting, property destruction. Numerous black-owned small businesses were destroyed, and minority communities have disproportionately borne the brunt of property destruction and reckless violence.
It's Black Lives Matter. They're destroying black lives.
That's right. As a result, racial inequalities have been widened by their own people,
Right.
creating more economic destabilization, which will be harder for marginalized communities to recover from.
And the white people who are marching for black, they're the ones destroying the black people.
Yeah, so if you think you're helping, you're not helping. I don't understand this.
You give money to these animals?
They-
In fact, it's an insult to
To
animals to
animals,
call
true.
them. These are scum from the bottom of toilet bowls.
Listen to me. These are demons. These are demons that are doing these things because
They belong
even
in a toilet.
animals do not do what we're seeing on the
That's
streets
right.
here in America. Now, interestingly, Chadwick Boseman, Black Panther star, dies at the age of 43. I thought that was very interesting, and I'm
Mm-hmm. Yes.
wondering if it's a symbolic sacrifice.
Well, guess who he was friends with?
He was friends with
Scamala.
Kamala Harris,
Kamahur.
who called him my friend and fellow bison. And I'm not sure what the bison means, but it does say that Boseman's death is on the same day as Jackie Robinson Day, which is Major League Baseball. So is there a baseball team named Bison? I don't know why she called him a bison.
I don't think so.
But there's a picture of her with him. So that's
Which I
why...
kind of lost respect for him when I saw that.
Yeah, was only 43. They claim he had a 4-year battle with colon cancer that he kept hidden, which I think is kind of a challenge to do.
Right.
Because in the movies he looked really great, and if
I'm
you're
shocked, yeah.
fighting cancer at that level, to me it just seems like it should show in his body. I don't know. Now this next story I thought again was a huge joke, but I had to report because it was just so ludicrous. Chelsea Clinton.
Oh,
Is
that's enough right there.
I know. She's teaching her 3 white children of privilege to erode that privilege through their lives to ensure that equality isn't just an ideal. Apparently, she had an interview with Massachusetts Democratic Representative Ayanna Pressley on Women for Biden video.
But Ayanna Pressley is absolutely bizarro.
Well, according to this, Chelsea said that she has 3 children. One's 5, one's 4, and one's 1. Yeah, 5, 4, and 1. And she has been teaching them about the 19th Amendment, explaining how it was incomplete because it didn't guarantee the vote for all. These are again,
Yeah, I'm
5,
sure the
4, and
1-year-old
1.
really got that.
And especially even the 5-year-old, that's over their head. So she's teaching them about the importance of it, but the victory was incomplete because many Americans have spent decades fighting for their right. So we talked about the ratification of the 19th Amendment, Women's Equality Day, and how fundamentally incomplete that victory was. Because
Right, the children really understood
5, 4,
that.
and 1. A lot of adults aren't going to understand what she's saying, that she's explaining to her
This is all
children.
BS, the BS
So
story.
what I want to know is what she's going to do to erode their white privilege and to enfranchise people. None of that makes sense. So is she going to give away all her money now?
Not to be worried, because when her mother goes to prison, that'll be the end of their privilege.
No, but the thing is they're going to give away their money, because what does that mean, that she's going to erode her children's white privilege?
It's just a BS story.
Yeah,
it's
and
for
then-
public consumption.
This was interesting because they claim that during the 2016 campaign that Hillary Clinton was asked to talk about her own white privilege, and I didn't even know back in 2016 that was a term. But anyway, Hillary went on to explain how she had a strong, supportive family and went to wonderful college and law school. So that's her white privilege. But I thought, okay, it was such a weird story.
What's wrong with going to college and law school?
Yeah.
I don't care what color you are.
I just thought it was the weirdest story, so I wanted to share that with you. And in New York City, let me see, the head of the police union demands that Mayor de Blasio,
But it's not his real name.
Wilhelm somebody,
Werner.
resign by sundown. We need to hear you resigned as mayor of New York City.
And hang from a tree.
Sergeants Benevolent Association President Ed Mullins wrote on Twitter in response to a post by de Blasio that trashed the 2020 Republican National Convention and the president. So
the New York police union supports Trump.
The head of police union said, "We are waiting. Only a few hours left until sundown. Give 8 million people a gift and quit.
Yeah.
You ruined New York City. Save the city and step down." What did we need to hear this week? Plans to fight COVID-19 and get Americans back to work. What did we hear? Lies about the greatest city in the world and one of the most diverse places on earth. So I thought that was pretty interesting with the police chief.
I'll tell you what, if the police aren't supporting him, he better hope no one comes to his little mansion.
Yeah, and you mentioned about the German event that's happened today, the day of our filming.
Eine wunderbare Zeit.
And also today, the day of our filming, more than 10,000 COVID conspiracy theorists, they're calling them, gather in London, headed by, guess who, David Icke. They're gathering to argue that the virus is a lie spread in a secret global plot organized by Bill Gates.
That's the truth.
So they were holding signs that said, "Mask reduce immunity," and likened their restrictions to child torture. They believe that coronavirus is a hoax, and they're protesting the lockdown restrictions and vaccination programs. Apparently there's an organization called Unite for Freedom, and they're calling for an end to government lies and the restoration of all freedoms. And the demonstrators, 10,000 of them, no social distancing, nobody wearing masks. And Jeremy Corbyn's brother Piers was speaking, of course David Icke was speaking. And David said that he's urging the police to stop serving the psychopaths and join those protesting in his speech addressing the cheering crowd. Now, according to this, the government in the UK is voting for a two-year extension of their emergency COVID-19 powers in September.
Bozo needs to resign.
So that's why they are protesting. 2 more years is crazy. So they want no more lockdowns, no social distancing, no masks, no track and trace, no health passports, no mandatory vaccinations, no new normal, restore all human rights that have been violated.
I am so glad to see Germany and Britain rising up finally.
It's just amazing. And in Denmark, they're also protesting. They didn't say how many people were there. I saw in Sweden they were protesting. So all over the world.
You know what, Deep State? You have already lost.
Yeah, you push people too far.
So the only thing they have left is they're going to start attacking with weapons. That's what they're going to do.
They're doing that.
And they said so.
They're doing that.
So now that they've exposed their plan, now's the time to get rid of them.
Yeah. And the pandemic pods, I kind of briefly mentioned this before. I'm going to briefly mention again about bringing families together. Micro schools, they're calling them pandemic pods, where people bring their kids in the neighborhood together and they're having teachers or adults supervise and teach them. So, but it was interesting because one of these articles I was reading about, they called this white privilege because the people who are doing it are in the same neighborhoods. Well, this is what we are, we have to be in close proximity. We're not going to be busing people across town for this stuff. So, thought that was crazy. And then in Nevada, Catawba County School, that was another story. Okay, we are in North Carolina. Sorry, Catawba County Schools, North Carolina, is going to allow students to take a breathing break from their face masks.
Well, that's nice of them.
Isn't that nice of them?
Before they die.
It's like, this is terrible to do to children.
Yeah.
So what the principal says, or I guess their superintendent, while in class, a teacher might allow students to take a quick face covering break. The student would remove the mask down to their chin, be able to get a couple of breaths, not coughing, sneezing, or spraying droplets, and then teachers will then instruct students to put their face masks back on. Does that sound like Nazi
But they have
drill?
to train the teacher to watch, make sure there's no little coronavirus running around at that moment. They go, okay, the coronavirus in the closet, hurry up, breathe, put it back.
Yeah, because can you imagine? I mean,
It's so stupid. There's no coronavirus.
This is all stupid. And your favorite governor, not
Don't
counting
even
our
say it.
own Governor Newsom.
Newscum.
Listen to this, announces a twindemic. Remember we talk about how the Illuminati likes twins? This is a twindemic. And he's increasing COVID testing. Or I saw this actually on one of the protesters saying convid. Like a convid COVID
Yes,
testing into March
That's
of
a good one.
2021. He announced twindemic will be upon them soon between COVID and flu season. So he's calling it a
course.
twindemic.
Yeah.
So California's got a new partnership with Perkin-Elmer Inc., a diagnostic company, to build a laboratory within the state and ramp up COVID-19 testing.
Could there perhaps be some Chinese money involved with
Well,
that?
could there perhaps be a kickback for Governor
I
Newsom?
wonder.
thought that was interesting. So this, interestingly enough, comes on the heels of the Center for Disease Control, CDC, announcement that it no longer recommends testing people without symptoms. But that will not be the policy for California.
Right, because they're their own country.
The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention withdrew its recommendation and requirement for travelers to quarantine for 14 days after an overseas or out-of-state trip. California, however, is increasing its COVID-19 testing capacity ahead of upcoming flu season. And for those unsure when this business lockdown and mask wearing will ever end in California, Governor Newsom said the goal is to stand up a laboratory facility, begin processing tens of thousands of additional tests by November 1, run at full capacity by no later than March 1st of 2021. So he's planning on running this into March of 2021.
But guess what? I don't think he's going to be around at that time.
I hope not. They're saying here that right now that California has given 10.8 million COVID tests. They cost $150 to $200 each. So somebody's making a lot of money off of these tests.
It's called Newsom.
And Newsom has a goal of
And Pelosi.
Newsom has a goal of 150,000 tests per day.
Per day?
Per day.
Really?
So he's probably going ka-ching, ka-ching, ka-ching with every test. That's my feeling.
Well, he's already got $1 trillion from China.
Yeah, and now Nancy Pelosi said that she wants to investigate the fact that the CDD changed their COVID testing guidelines.
Yeah, I'd like to investigate her.
Yeah, because as we talked about, anybody before that they were exposed, they were supposed to get a test. Now they're only going to test them if they have symptoms. So if you've been exposed but no symptoms, no tests.
Because they don't have anything.
She called it scary and dangerous and hinted it was politically motivated.
Wait, this is scary and dangerous, what she does. And did you see when she was doing that interview on for the news and she was completely drunk out of her mind?
Well, she was slurred, so we don't know. Maybe it's even programming kicking in for all we know.
She should be executed.
CDC did not explain the change and referred questions to the Department of Health. And in Idaho, God bless them, in Idaho,
yes, God bless Idaho.
Well, the House voted to advance a resolution that ends Idaho Governor Brad Little's coronavirus emergency declaration. It's the first state where its constituents have voted to remove the insane coronavirus regulations put on by their governor in overwhelming fashion. The resolution effectively lifts all restrictions across the state.
Good.
Lawmakers voted and passed the resolution 48 to 20 amid a special session that the governor himself called for to deal with other laws. The resolution now heads to the Senate, so I didn't say when that's going to happen. If it passes the governor's emergency declaration that he put in place back in March, everything will be over in Idaho, so let's pray that everything is
over. And let Idaho be the first one of all the 50.
Yes. And this is my Las Vegas story. So Clark County, Las Vegas, Nevada. Some parents were worried when they heard their child's 7th grade class this week was asked, if you could choose how to die, how would you choose? Apparently the question was posed as a part of Get to Know You exercise in a middle school.
Who came up with that one?
The school principal sent a letter to parents and guardians saying the material used in students' virtual advisory class was not reviewed properly. This is why they don't want parents listening in because think how many questions like this are going out there that parents don't hear.
Well, there's worse, but they don't hear.
Terrible. In China, in the hospitals in Xinjiang were ordered by China's communist government to abort and kill all babies born in excess of its mandated family planning limits. So this includes newborns even being born after being carried to full term.
Oh, that's horrible.
Yeah, apparently the Uyghurs can only have 3, and other ethnic minorities, they can only have 3 children. So if they find out they're pregnant, no matter how far along they are or if they've been born, they kill them.
Yeah.
They said that because the orders have been given from above, so they don't have a choice, and hospitals get fined if they don't comply, so the people are killing these perfectly healthy babies.
Gee, you'd never expect that from China, would you?
Back to California, a Democrat state senator, Scott Wiener,
Another
Wiener claims he's pushing a bill to decriminalize gay sex with minors because he claims the current laws discriminate against the LGBTQ community. He says that automatically placing adults on the sex offenders registry for abusing underage children of the same sex is called homophobic. I don't think so.
I don't think so either. I think it's called child abuse.
I think so. The legislation that he wants allows judges discretion over sex offender registration in all cases involving voluntary intercourse between teenagers ages 14 to 17 who cannot legally consent and adults who are less than 10 years older than the child. So in other words, a 14-year-old child and a 24-year-old, that's okay according to this. Mm-hmm. And then he goes on to say, I've been the subject of death threats and personal attacks.
Yeah, hopefully they'll come through.
Threatening to decapitate me and send my head to my mother.
Good.
So he said, this kind of slander, not just against me, but against my community, is outrageous, and we have to speak out against it. And he singled out QAnon conspiracy theorists who believe he is attempting to legalize pedophilia, which obviously he is.
He is.
Now, Chad Felix Green, who's a conservative journalist and also gay, wrote that has become far too common, opposing perceived right-wing attacks is more important than critically addressing dangerous legislation. Left-wing media is all too happy to use labels of hate and conspiracy theories to dismiss legitimate concerns. And this is a legitimate concern. I agree. They're trying to push pedophilia and legalize it because all these people at the top want it legalized so when they're caught, they don't have to go to prison and jail.
Well, they're looking at a jail anyway.
In Australia, they're calling this a major victory for pedophiles because in Australia they passed what they're calling a baffling law that could see rape and sexual assault victims thrown into jail for telling their stories. There's now a Let Us Speak campaign, which this was interesting considering the mask and you can't breathe
right.
and you can't speak up. So it's called the Let Us Speak campaign because the Judicial Proceedings Reports Act, which was changed this past February, prohibited victims from identifying themselves publicly if their attacker has been found guilty.
Why?
Well, that's why they're calling it baffling. The new law applies retrospectively, meaning that victims who have lawfully spoken out previously are now censored from speaking out publicly. Media outlets who defy the law can be prosecuted, face fines up to $8,000, and individuals can be put into jail for up to 4 months in prison and fined $3,000.
For telling their story?
For telling
the truth of what happened to them?
Yes. So why would they do that?
What the heck happened to you, Australia?
Why would they do that? All right. You told the story about Pelosi.
Yeah, she's just
She also talked
evil.
about it in 2019, that she said that even, I just go on a little bit further with what you said, in November 2019, she said even allowing Trump a chance to maintain power via a free election was dangerous. She said the weak response to the impeachment hearings have been, let the election decide, but this is a dangerous position which only adds to the urgency of our action because POTUS is jeopardizing the integrity of the 2020 elections.
No, it's jeopardizing her ability to get money from Iran and China and Ukraine.
So Trump responded to this and called her crazy and said
She's
that
worse than
Nancy
crazy.
Pelosi just stated it's dangerous to let the voters decide Trump's fate.
That's right.
She thinks I'm going to win and doesn't want to take a chance on letting the voters decide.
That's right.
Like Al Green, she wants to change our voting system. Wow, she's crazy.
She's worse than crazy.
Yeah, I agree. And then interestingly enough, speaking of crazy, the DNC caucus meeting featured a transgender, non-binary, gender transcendent mermaid queen king who wants a world without cops.
That's all one person?
That's a person. Yeah, they featured this individual called J. May, I guess M-A-I, but the first name is just an initial J. And their preferred pronouns are they and them, so according to their biography...
Yeah, because they have multiple personalities.
Yes,
that's
programming. J. May is a black Vietnamese, transgender, non-binary, gender transcendent, mermaid queen king.
Oh, stop it already.
Not done, currently living out their ever-evolving truths in Winston-Salem. That's the biography of this person. Listen, and that's
this person needs to be in a home.
But this is the person that the Democrats
that's what they want. They want that to be president.
Yeah, now this I found interesting because some evangelical leaders are calling the QAnon movement a political cult and satanic. So apparently, and then it goes on to explain what it is. So just in case you don't know, according to this article, which is relatively close, QAnon claims that President Donald Trump is in a war with the deep state, battling entities like elitist pedophile rings and Satanism.
He is.
So what's interesting to me is that the evangelicals, these couple of them, are saying that this is wrong. So,
well, the evangelicals, they also think that doing yoga is satanic, and they think all kinds of stupid things because, they take the Bible completely literally.
Well, last week, as you know, Trump said that he does not know much about the QAnon conspiracy theory, but understands its supporters like him and love America. However, the FBI has labeled QAnon a domestic terror threat.
No, they
Did you know
didn't.
that? They
That's a
didn't?
lie.
That's a lie? Okay, that's what they wrote in this article.
I know, but it's a lie.
Okay, well, that's a good thing. It says that Chad Wolf said in an interview that QAnon is not a significant threat. So anyway, it just goes on to talk about what these pastors have said, which is, in my opinion,
It's a threat to the
crazy.
deep state, yes. Yes, they're against the deep state, absolutely.
Yeah, and these pastors are saying QAnon is incompatible with Christianity. But my thought after reading
They're
this,
very Christian.
that's right. My thought is because these people must be teaching the false Christianity.
Well, duh.
And so therefore they don't want, to lose their followers, so to speak. They don't want their people to learn the truth.
They're probably getting money from China, too.
It's possible. And in Turkey, this was kind of a last minute story I saw, but I thought it was very significant. In Turkey, it's actually an Israeli official confirmed that they're giving Hamas members passports and identification papers.
The Turkish are.
Yes, Roe Gilad said Israel had proof that Turkey was providing passports and identity cards to members of Hamas, which runs Gaza and is considered a terrorist organization. A lot of terrorist organizations running loose out there these days. It said that Turkey has given passports to a dozen Hamas members in Istanbul. A senior Israeli diplomat said, describing the move as a very unfriendly step, which his government would raise with Turkish officials. Speaking days after Turkey's president met visiting Hamas leaders, Gilad said Israel has already told Turkey last year that Hamas was carrying out terror-related activity in Istanbul, but Turkey has not taken any action. It said the two countries in 2018 have had some disputes,
A little.
although they still keep strong commercial ties, and they expelled their respective ambassadors apparently back in 2018. However, Erdogan has repeatedly condemned Israel's West Bank occupation, treatment of Palestinians. And Gilad said Israel has proof that Turkey was providing these passports and identity cards.
That's
and
probably
says
true.
some are in the process, some already have the documents, but we are talking about a dozen. And this past week, Erdogan hosted the Hamas chief and other officials in Istanbul for the second time this year, prompting objections from Washington, which linked one of the men to terrorist attacks, hijackings, and kidnappings, and Ankara said it rejected the U.S. criticism. Now, Gilad said that the current tensions ruled out any cooperation on exploiting gas reserves in the eastern Mediterranean, where Turkey is challenging maritime claims by Greece, Cyprus, and their other allies. But even if ties with Turkey were to improve, Israel claims it will not throw away strategic alliances that it's built up with other nations over the past 10 years, including Greece, Cyprus, and Egypt.
Right, because all of them stand to make a lot of money from the development of the Eastern Mediterranean gas and oil fields.
Yeah. And this is my last story, and this is kind of to lighten up a little bit, but it's still kind of a little incredulous to me. I guess that maybe shows my age a bit. But it's claiming that, when you write a sentence, you put at the end a little period.
A period.
A dot. Okay. They call that a full stop. So I want you to understand that before I read this article.
Okay.
Okay, so a full stop is a period. So linguists are now saying that a full stop, period, is intimidating to young people because they interpret it as a sign of anger. So language experts
Oh
are
my
now
goodness.
debating the change about this
So
full
they don't
stop.
even want to use the word period or at the end of a sentence.
Well, the Professor David Crystal, who's one of the world's leading language experts, argues that the usage of full stops is being revised in a really fundamental way. And he wrote a book,
About
A Period.
Oh my God.
He calls it Making a Point.
Yeah.
He says that the punctuation mark has become an emotion marker which alerts the recipient that the sender is angry or annoyed. He said people obviously can't use these mechanisms when they're texting, like their emotions. So thus it makes sense that texters rely on what they have available to them, which is emoticons, deliberate misspellings that mimic speech sounds, and according to our data, punctuation.
So we shouldn't use punctuation. 'Cause
Well,
it could make you feel angry.
specifically just the dot. And
Then I'm going to use exclamation points all the time.
And then, interestingly enough, there was a study from Bingham University in New York. So these are these studies. I don't know how they get funded, really, because
Oh, what a waste of money and
yes,
time.
that's what I don't understand.
God's sake.
It says that this study suggested that people who finish messages with full stops are perceived as insincere.
Oh, please. How ridiculous is this?
Or annoyed or irritated.
People are murdering babies and this is a thing?
And people are going hungry and they're starting.
Are you kidding me? This man should be smacked in the head with a pipe.
Who wants to buy a book called Making a Point about a full stop or a period?
I wouldn't.
Who wants to buy a book?
I would read the cover and be bored.
That's what I'm saying. Is that crazy?
Seriously,
crazy
he's mentally a mental case.
Well, apparently that's what they're saying.
Seriously, what the heck has happened to this planet?
It's traumatizing them.
This planet, I'm
Traumatizing
telling
our young
you, people,
people.
you better rise up and do something with this planet because it's going to hell.
Listen to me. If this is going to traumatize them, what's it going to do to your kids to show up to school, stay 6 feet apart, wear a mask all day long? What's
And then
that going to do?
have a 30-second breathe break.
Yeah. Well, they didn't say it could be that long. Just a breath
Oh,
or two.
for God's sake! What the heck is wrong with you
Yeah,
people?
that's just crazy. So anyway, say no to mind control. We have our say no to
Say no
mind
to
control
everything.
package right here. Say no to mind control. So be sure you read this if you haven't, because it's a lot of information. And I will tell you, this book we wrote a few years ago, The True Reality of Sexuality, and I'm going to tell a little secret because I don't have it yet. But our next book, which is Heights of Relationships, which is really the sequel to this, is going to be coming out before the end of October. So pretty
Am I in
soon,
it?
probably. So pretty soon I'm going to be announcing the pre-publication price, so be watching for that so you can stock up, get one for yourself and one for whoever you think needs one.
Well, I hope you don't have any periods in it.
Yeah, it's got a few periods. So True Reality of Sexuality, the sequel of this, will be coming out very, very soon. In the meantime, it is and will remain in our Say No to Mind Control package.
Say no to periods.
Yeah, and I mentioned already about if you want to know true world history. Okay, we have some of the best books ever. Montauk Alien Connection, we have True World History, Humanity Saga, and of course we have Galactic
We should
History.
start a group called Period Lives Matter.
I like that one. We have all our health and healing books out here. These also have some fascinating history things. If you like, what kind of history would you call this? Biblical history? Okay, King Bee, Queen Bee, Revelations of Time and Space, History and God. That sounds deep.
It is.
And the Template of God Mind. Wow, that sounds deep. Oh, there it is again. It's so deep it showed up twice. And Heights of Spirituality. So, like I said, we have lots of things
Lot of
out
books
here.
there.
A lot of books. We are
No wonder
very
I'm
busy.
busy.
Yes, and me too. We are very, very busy all the time. We have September 10th, a
Oh yeah, I
free-
have. Yeah. Well, first of all, yeah. So September 10th at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, there will be a free webinar for about 45 minutes
on this book, actually.
on that
Which I
one.
just happened to mention.
And that is going to lead to a full paid webinar,
2 hours long
2 hours on September 24th
on this book.
from 7 to 9.
So if you don't have this in
Easy.
your library, I highly suggest you get it so that you're up to date on everything.
But the webinar will be
Yeah, but it's
On that?
going to be on this book.
okay. And we are also looking at our weekly webinars that we
Yes.
do and thinking of new ideas for it, basically based on my new
Our
work.
new books.
Yeah, that and new information, even in addition to all of that, which is absolutely incredible even to me. And actually, in about 36 hours or so, I'll be at the North American Space Symposium in Traverse City, Michigan. Vice President Pence is there right now. I'm sure he's waiting for me, and I'm
I'm
sure
sure.
he's so nervous about meeting me.
He's probably annoyed you're not there
He's
already.
like probably like put his mask all over his face because like so I'm so worried,
wanna
I'm so
sit.
nervous, so excited to But anyway, I did actually send a message to Vice President Trump, which I will not tell you what it was.
Vice President Pence.
Pence, right? What did I say?
He said Vice President Trump.
Oh my God, Pelosi was trying to access my brain.
I think so. I saw the
No, it's
the
President
wave
Trump.
came in.
President Trump and Vice President Pence. Yeah, so I'll be there, and I'll be meeting with a lot of people with a lot of strange information on my there. And if I can, I'll tell you what I find out next time. Now, the Global Night Symposium, October 30th to November 1st in Sterling Heights, Michigan. We can't leave Michigan
I guess not.
because we're in the People's Republic of Michigan right now, and we can't leave, the borders are closed. And so please register. The link is on the site, and I also posted the link on my September 1 blog.
It's not September 1 yet.
No, but they will have that shortly.
And remember, get your membership at expansions.com, less than $1 a day, so you can keep up on all this, because we can't tell everything here once a week in the short little bit of time we have. So every day, Stuart and I are on our blogs with information for you there, and a Q&A there.
But now it'd be faster because we don't have to put periods in it after anything. We could just run on sentences.
Yeah.
So that's good. And anyway, again, best of luck to the people in Berlin. Best of luck to the people in London. And
Globally.
yeah, and people in Portland, people in Seattle, people in Minneapolis, Washington, D.C., rise up against your governor, rise up against your mayor. They are demons, they're not people.
Well, in fact, there is a Facebook group called Unlock Michigan. There's a petition there you need to sign so that that can be put forward in the legislature.
Yes, unlock Michigan. Hopefully, within a week, it will be unlocked.
And we'll find out.
And wretched Gretchen can go fly a kite on her broom.
Yeah, we'll see.
Well, that's all for now.
We'll see you next time.
If I get back from the space
Or on
conference.
the blogs. That's true. Maybe.
I might get beamed up someplace.
Yeah,
I
might
don't
be
know.
going on an alien ride.
I hope so,
somewhere.
actually.
I'll miss you.
I don't like this planet.
I don't want to have to do this by myself.
I'm sure you'll find somebody.
Yeah.
Bye for now.
Bye.